Ever pondered why some cultural norms seem so alien to us yet are completely normal in other societies? Just as a rainbow spans a spectrum of colors, our world is a vibrant mix of cultures, each with its unique norms and practices. It's a fascinating tapestry of traditions that make each society distinct. One such area of distinction comes in the form of exposure, particularly when it comes to women. Let's take a journey around the globe. Picture the vast landscapes of Africa, the dense forests of the Amazon, and the rural parts of Indonesia. In these parts of the world, the exposure of women's breasts is seen not as a taboo, but as a norm. It's an integral part of their cultural identity. For instance, in certain indigenous tribes across Africa and the Amazon, women's exposure is not only accepted but celebrated as a part of their everyday life. Women here are often seen bare-chested, engaging in daily chores, celebrations, and rituals. Their exposure is not viewed through the lens of eroticism but rather as a symbol of life and nourishment. Likewise, in some rural parts of Indonesia, women's exposure is a common sight. It's a practice rooted in their traditions, seen as a natural part of existence, and is not sexualized or stigmatized. It's crucial to understand that these practices, which might seem unusual to some, are steeped in centuries of tradition and societal norms. The cultural lens through which we view these practices can often color our understanding and perception of them. As we journey through this discussion, it's essential to remember that what may seem alien to us may be completely normal to others. Cultural norms and practices are as diverse as the societies they belong to. The key to understanding and appreciating these differences is to approach them with an open mind, free of stereotypes and prejudices. Every culture, no matter how different, has its unique beauty and charm that deserves respect and sensitivity. As we journey through this discussion, remember to approach these practices with respect and sensitivity. Now, let's turn our attention to Western societies, where norms around women's exposure are quite different. In Western cultures, the exposure of women's breasts is generally considered inappropriate for everyday public settings. This standard has been shaped by a myriad of historical and societal influences, creating a norm that leans towards modesty. However, it's crucial to remember that Western societies are not a monolith, and rules around exposure can vary significantly from one location to another. In some places, laws dictate the extent of acceptable exposure. For instance, in certain cities and states across the United States, women are legally allowed to go topless in public. Yet despite the legality, societal norms often still dictate a different standard. Thus, even where laws permit, fewer women choose to exercise this right due to societal pressures and personal comfort. However, there are scenarios where exposure is more accepted, even encouraged. One key example is breastfeeding. Over the past few decades, the push for breastfeeding acceptance has gained significant momentum in Western societies. It's now widely recognized as a natural and necessary act, and women are generally supported to breastfeed in public. Despite this, some controversy still exists, highlighting the ongoing tension between societal norms and natural human behaviors. Another example is beaches and swimming pools. In these contexts, it's common to see women in bikinis, a form of dress that exposes a significant portion of the chest. Yet even here, norms can vary. Some beaches are designated as topless or nude, where the exposure of women's breasts is accepted and even expected. Similarly, events like Carnival in Brazil or Mardi Gras in New Orleans often see a loosening of these norms, where exposure is part of the festive atmosphere. But again, these are exceptions, not the rule. In essence, Western norms surrounding women's exposure are complex and multi-layered, influenced by a mix of legal, societal, and personal factors. Yet, it's essential to remember that these norms are not fixed. They evolve and change, reflecting shifts in societal attitudes and understandings. As we can see, cultural norms are not universal and can vary greatly even within the same society. We've seen the what, now let's delve into the why. Why do these norms exist in the first place? Every society has its own unique set of norms, and these are influenced by a variety of factors. Let's start with religion. In many societies, religious beliefs lay the foundation for societal norms, including norms about dress and modesty. For instance, in some cultures, women are expected to cover their bodies as a sign of respect for their faith. On the flip side, in other societies, religious rituals may involve women exposing their bodies as part of sacred ceremonies. Next, tradition plays a significant role in shaping norms. Traditions tend to be passed down from generation to generation, and they often become so ingrained in a culture that they are accepted without question. For example, in some indigenous tribes, women's exposure of their breasts is a long-standing tradition that has been upheld for centuries. It's just the way things have always been done. Climate also has a significant impact on societal norms, particularly those related to dress. In hot, humid climates, it is more comfortable and practical for people to wear less clothing. This can lead to norms that allow for more exposure of the body, including the breasts. In contrast, in colder climates, more clothing is needed for warmth, resulting in norms that call for more coverage. Lastly, societal values shape norms. In societies that value modesty and privacy, norms typically require more body coverage. Conversely, in societies that value freedom of expression and individuality, norms may allow for more body exposure. To wrap up, it's important to note that these factors often intersect and interact in complex ways to form the norms that we see in different cultures. Religion, tradition, climate, and societal values all play a part, and the balance between them can vary greatly from one society to another. Understanding the why helps us to appreciate the diversity of cultural norms. The norms we've discussed don't exist in a vacuum. They impact societies in various ways. In the grand tapestry of human societies, the exposure of women's breasts takes on different meanings, each one a thread woven into the fabric of that culture. They can symbolize maternal strength, spiritual connection, or simply be a part of everyday life. But these norms also play a role in shaping societal perceptions and women's rights. Let's consider the feminist movement. In some societies, the freedom for women to expose their breasts is seen as a symbol of liberation. The act of going topless, for example, has been used by feminists to challenge patriarchal norms, asserting that women should have the same rights as men to go shirtless in public. This form of protest, often referred to as top freedom, has been prevalent in Western societies, fueling discussions about gender equality. However, in other cultures, the norm of breast exposure can be restricting. In societies where women's bodies are heavily sexualized, the exposure of breasts can be seen as an invitation for objectification and harassment. This can lead to women being subjected to unwelcome attention, affecting their freedom and safety. The impact of these norms also extends to societal perceptions. In societies where exposure is the norm, breasts are often viewed as non-sexual and natural. However, in societies where exposure is seen as inappropriate, breasts can be overly sexualized, leading to a culture of shame and stigma around the female body. These norms can also influence the way women perceive themselves and their bodies. In societies where women's bodies are accepted as they are, women often have a healthier body image. On the other hand, societies that objectify women's bodies can lead to women feeling insecure and pressured to conform to unrealistic beauty standards. It's clear that the norms surrounding the exposure of women's breasts have far-reaching impacts. They shape societal attitudes, influence women's rights, and play a role in movements for gender equality. It's a complex issue with no one-size-fits-all solution. The impact of these norms is as diverse as the norms themselves. No matter where we come from, there's one universal norm we should all adhere to: respect and sensitivity. This truth is as vast as the oceans, as towering as the mountains, and as enduring as the stars. In our journey through the diverse cultural landscapes, we have discovered a fascinating array of practices, norms, and traditions. From the indigenous tribes of Africa and the Amazon to the rural regions of Indonesia, the cultural views on the exposure of women's breasts vary significantly. In contrast, Western societies have a different perspective, with their own unique set of rules and norms. Yet, amidst this diversity, one principle remains constant. The principle of respect and sensitivity towards these cultural practices. It's a universal norm that transcends geographical boundaries and cultural differences. When we approach cultural differences with an open mind, we unlock the door to a world of understanding. We begin to see the world through different lenses, each one presenting a unique perspective that contributes to the vibrant tapestry of human cultures. Yet the importance of avoiding stereotypes and prejudices cannot be overstated. Stereotypes are shortcuts, simplistic views that reduce the richness and complexity of cultures to mere caricatures. Prejudices, on the other hand, are filters that color our perceptions and prevent us from appreciating the beauty and diversity of the world. It is crucial, then, to approach cultural practices with a sense of respect and sensitivity. To understand that these practices have evolved over centuries, shaped by the unique histories, environments, and philosophies of each culture. To acknowledge that these practices are not mere curiosities to be gawked at, but integral parts of people's identities and ways of life. In this way, we not only broaden our horizons but also enrich our human experience. We become more aware, more understanding, and ultimately, more human. Learning about different cultures broadens our horizons, but always remember, respecting these differences is what truly enriches our human experience. So, let's uphold this universal norm and celebrate the wonderful diversity of our world with respect and sensitivity.